Hello, I'm Sean Arthur Cox. This is a toddler. This is a ridiculous haircut. And this is BS with S.A.C. When last we left off, William had found a secret passage in a cave while hunting for bandits and a missing adventurer. So let's see how that works out for him. Chapter 14. That was unexpected. He rose to inspect this latest development, an enormous slab of stone weighing at least a couple of tons. Stone which not 10 seconds ago formed a seamless segment of the wall had swung effortlessly open, revealing a skillfully crafted passage beyond, made of brick and mortar. He stepped in and marveled at the construction. The corridor, which William guessed to be 10 feet by 10 feet, width to height, stretched onward but not into darkness. Torches burned in sconces lining the walls that ran perfectly perpendicular to the smooth floor, revealing a splendor the boy never would have imagined lay hidden in such a grim and desolate place. Not only were the bricks and stones that formed the passage perfectly cut and placed such that parchment couldn't slide between, but everything, floor, walls, even ceiling, appeared to be carved from marble. The glow of the flames reflected off the polished surfaces all around, creating a reverential ambience of light emphasized by the way every insignificant sound echoed down the corridor, until it reached the sort of crescendo reserved for the importance of words from on high. That's a girl who is not a toddler. She is bigger than that. William turned to the cave behind him in disbelief, taking in the stark contrast. One could literally draw the transition line between dirt-covered cave and immaculate hall. The door, too, bore the same staggering differences inside to out. The cave side had been rough stone covered with moss and grime. Shh. The other side of the secret door, a wonder of engineering to open and close itself when pressed in just the right spot, had been sculpted of wrought iron. A bas-relief of bronze lay nested within the cold metal frame, depicting a mighty king wielding a sword that even in unmoving image form, William could tell held great power. The carving must have taken a team of skilled sculptors years to complete. Clearly, the hall represented only part of some larger tomb dedicated to a mighty king, yet the very presence of a hidden door implied it was not intended for the casual mourner. Something valuable lay hidden within its halls, a tomb which, if legend had anything to say, would be a twisted nightmare of traps and mazes and monsters. If he had to hazard a guess, William assumed that the great and powerful sword shown on the door lay somewhere within these winding passageways. No doubt waiting for a hero worthy of its power to find it, claim it, and use it to smite down evil wherever it may lie. You did it. Despite the horrors he would no doubt face, the pits of certain doom, the beasts and evil minions, he had to admit to feeling at least a little excited. This, right here, right now, was how all the best heroes started. Or how the best stories started. High five? The hero, having discovered the secret entrance to the king someone the something's hidden tomb, entered, ready for the wealth, glory, and adventure that lay within. Okay, so maybe that wasn't where the best stories started. They usually started with the heroes lurking about in some tavern somewhere, getting drunk, and reveling in their most recent conquest when some stranger who happened to possess an unreasonable amount of knowledge regarding the most secretive of secrets asked for assistance. But, standing there at the secret entrance to the dangerous yet majestic tomb, ready to slay beasts and find treasure, was where all the best stories became really interesting. Which, William realized, made adventurers quite literally glorified grave robbers. They kicked in doors and disarmed traps, and you just threw my computer down. Why would you do that? They kicked in doors and disarmed traps, put in place to keep others from stealing what lay hidden within. The monsters and skeletons and beasts, by extension, acted as guardians of the dead, keeping the final resting place of kings and beloved icons safe from looters and those who would desecrate graves for a little wealth. Even when the final battle within the tomb turned out to be the hero versus the mummified corpse of said king, as of now, the boy couldn't help but feel at least a little sympathetic toward the undead abomination. The zombie king only wanted a little peace and quiet for all eternity, time to reflect and cherish its treasure that it had acquired by the sweat of its own brow while still in life. Was that such a terrible thing? Heroes wouldn't want anyone disturbing their graves after they'd passed on, so what made it acceptable to essentially rob and pillage from the graves of another? Adventurers were bastards. Don't repeat that word. William looked shamefully at his scimitar. Guilt gnawed at his conscience like dragons gnawed on knights. He didn't discard the blade, however. He wasn't stupid. There would be monsters about, tomb guardians who objected on deadly principle to his very presence. He would have to defend himself from them and their non-understanding ways. He just wouldn't feel good about it. Besides, really, he was helping with their job, removing the body of someone who didn't belong therein. That had to count for something. With a fresh, new, cynical perspective, William turned back toward the corridor. The grand hallway demonstrated extravagance to the point of idiocy. The tomb existed within a mountain, solid rock all the way through, and yet had been constructed of marble, a terribly rare commodity in the Sixth Realm. Whoever designed this place, rather than using the perfectly acceptable stone already present, carved everything larger than it needed to be, and then imported tons of intricately carved, expensive marble from halfway across the world to replace the rock they already had. Further, marble was a soft stone, by far less durable than that which made up the cave beyond the tomb's doors. Was it pretty? Yes. Did it do anything to deter grave robbers? No. William felt confident, in fact, that it did the opposite. Seeing expensive marble everywhere screamed, "I have more money than I know what to do with. Come on in and see for yourself." Likewise, the entrance, aside from being secret, did little to prevent looters from raiding the place for every piece of copper they could find. A door should be a first line of defense. This particular door was sturdy in composition, stone and iron, and its construction too showed great skill and artifice. It blended seamlessly with the cave wall surrounding it, a brilliant defense, and yet it opened so easily. One good knock and it all but invited grave robbers in with open arms. A frightened rabbit could break in. The doormaker did a phenomenal job concealing the entrance, and he worked wonders with managing the weight of the door itself versus the structural needs of the hinges. It even opened smoothly and quickly, a monumental feat of engineering. So why not spend a few more moments to make the actual task of entering more complex, involving some deliberate action like rotating two hidden knobs simultaneously in opposite directions, or at least require two separate areas be knocked at once? Something that bandits, who were notorious cave dwellers, wouldn't discover by fluke accident. All the sturdy materials in the world, the stone, the iron, even a sheet of solid diamond would do all of nothing to keep out anyone if the first blow of a hammer attempting to break the door down simply opened the way for them. William considered the economics of such a poor decision. After all, anyone determined enough to hammer patiently away at solid stone until they broke through to secret tomb on the other side would not think twice about destroying the door completely to get in. At least this way, after the first blow, the invaders did no more damage to the door, saving on costly repairs. Of course, a rig like this had to be expensive, probably more than the cost of a dozen massive stone doors. Then he remembered the marble walls and dismissed economics, instead blaming the poor planning on an excess of wealth and a deficit of sense. Elaborate doors, costly walls and floors, torches which were either replaced regularly or were magical in nature to keep them from burning out, a gaudy engraving declaring exactly how wealthy the body laying herein was, and how powerful the treasure would be. William thought hard, but found no reason for any of it. He would have to be careful at every intersection, every step of the way, for to survive in such a tomb, he would need to consider every possible option and then act according to the one that made the least sense. He grabbed a torch from the wall. Reason said they were magical. Of course, should the door not be open, or otherwise should the door not be open for some extended period of time, the flames would die from lack of air. An intelligent designer would trap the sconces, knowing adventurers would steal such a torch. Therefore, he knew the mystic light source to be safe for the taking, and so he did. He felt at ease in that first great hall. It seemed so warm and inviting. It was the perfect place for a trap to weed out the idiots and wild animals who'd stumbled upon the place, lured onward by the splendor and reassuring calm of the hall possessed. The boy walked down the hall unmolested by poisoned arrows, scything blades, or spike-filled pits. William reached an intersection, perhaps 100 yards down. Why was this hall so meaninglessly long? And paused for a moment, readying his 10-foot pole. The entryway ended, and hall split off to the left and right. If there were a pit, it would be easy to bypass. One would simply need to hug the corner and step around into one of the sides. He prodded the floor where the hall forked and watched as the stones collapsed downward into a 20-foot hole. The bricks splashed as they hit water at the bottom and sank. Water. Break your opponent's fall. Give them a chance to survive. Why not? He eyed his two choices, left and right. The two halls looked equally plain in their ornateness. More sconces and marble and engraved images of King Whoever's many great achievements. An intelligent architect of death would trap both halls, so William felt certain one of them offered safe, unhindered passage. His first instinct was to go left. He considered himself a normal fellow, and assumed that a normal fellow would go left. The smart designer would thus fill the left hall with traps. He pried a stone loose from what remained of the intersection, and sent it skipping down the left hall. Nothing. He slipped around the corner safely and retrieved his rock. Just to amuse his curiosity, he threw it down the right corridor. Blades whirred and sliced at the air. Geysers of flame gushed from the walls and floors. Arrows whizzed by in volleys of 20 or more. Of course, William said, put the worst of it where most people won't go. He nodded onward in peace. As he did, he imagined heroes saying dumb things like, "Oh sure, the left hall looks safe, but that's what they want us to believe. Let's go down the trapped hall to the right instead." The hall turned to the right after another 100 yards, and William considered how much potential space went unused between rooms. The next hall, also long and straight and purposeless, stretched out before him. The floor here had been decorated with hundreds of 1-foot by 1-foot stone tiles, each with a letter carefully engraved upon its surface. Were William a rich and powerful designer of tombs, he would trap every single tile and use his wealth to purchase something that would let him fly across, while heroes who fancied themselves great thinkers struggled to determine the non-existent secret word that would grant safe passage. However, William accepted that no matter how brilliant, not all evil architects would have access to flying magics. Therefore, a cunning villain would use such a hall to keep out those who didn't belong, probably selecting a completely random and arbitrary series of letters to make safe. Under no circumstances would he choose an actual word or phrase to mark the safe path, and only a complete and total fool would leave a reminder for himself as to the nature of that word or phrase where heroes could easily find it. William glanced down and noticed a message written in mosaic tiles just before the alphabet of stonework. "What do you seek?" "I'm pretty sure the answer isn't the body of Marcus," he said to himself. "If I knew where I was, which I'm pretty sure any adventurers to enter would know, I would say the answer was whatever treasure lies in the middle of this madhouse." But William didn't know. So instead of leaping from stone to stone, spelling out the obvious answer, he prodded at floor tiles, checking for traps. Most, when touched, crumbled and fell into a deep pit, the bottom of which William could not see. "How convenient," he said, and he knelt down to peer into the hole he created in the floor. He lowered the torch end for a little light and saw a number of pillars holding up select tiles, no doubt the ones safe to walk upon. The first looked to be a foot forward, 2 to the right. He pulled his head out and poked at one he assumed to be safe. A T. Nothing. Cautiously he stepped on the tile. Still nothing. He shrugged and poked at tiles around him until all but the next one, an H, fell away. After a tedious but safe routine of knocking stones loose and stepping to those that didn't fall, the boy made it across the trapped chasm. "Now what's so special about this place, eh?" he asked the empty room. He turned to look to see what his safe passage had spelled out. THESWORDOFMACFINN. The Sword of McFinn. Good to know. William had, of course, heard of the Sword of McFinn. Everyone had. It was a mystical, all-powerful blade that allegedly gave the mighty adventurer King McFinn all his epic powers. The sword had been lost for centuries, and by this point had been relegated to legend only. Such a weapon couldn't actually exist, could it? And for it to be so close, too! William tried to rein in his excitement, but his heart skipped a beat anyway. With such a blade at his side, even he could defeat those kobolds once and for all. He continued on, more confident, more excited, more hopeful than he'd been in ages. Most of the tomb's dangers could be avoided with the slightest bit of common sense. He found barracks, so he knew there would be no monsters nearby. It also meant there would be no convenient place to find food, such as a kitchen or larder, if one could be found in the tomb at all, without crossing at least one lethal trap. Giving soldiers safe access to food made sense, therefore there would be no food within safe walking distance. He found a chapel, presumably where McFinn's final rites had been performed. Only a fool would put a dangerous trap on an altar their own soldiers would use on a regular basis for their religious rites. So William avoided the great stone table like the plague. A charred corpse, semi-fresh, confirmed the boy's suspicions and reminded him that others weren't so clever. From the calves down, the body was intact. Skin, muscle tissue, hair, sandals, and the bottom part of a robe. All present and in excellent condition, less the dead part. From the knees up, however, nothing but blackened bone and a haunting reverse shadow on the wall, soot forming the outline of what appeared to be a very terrified wizard. Becoming bored with the senselessly long, winding, occasionally trapped halls, William created a game called What's Around the Corner. Upon approaching a turn in the hall, he would guess whether he would see a plain hall with a hidden trap, or one that contained an overt riddle-style trap. And it so happened, he possessed quite a talent for the game, and even did well in the spin-off game, What's Behind This Door? He said, upon discovering a door in the center of a short hallway. I just made a right turn, and I see another right turn just a few yards down. This is probably a fairly small room. Only an idiot would put an adult dragon in here, though I don't know how they would manage it. He opened the door, and lo and behold, there, crammed into the small 20-by-20 room, lurked a dragon, great and fierce and red and scaly and unable to move. The monstrous worm of death and destruction scowled at him. It was a very angry look, the type that said, I'm going to kill you, rending your flesh to ribbons between my razor-sharp fangs and eat your soul for dessert, bite by delicious bite, if you would kindly take a few steps forward as I lack sufficient room to so much as scratch myself properly. As he amused himself with imagined dialogue, a cloud of flame billowed violently from the room. Had William been by nature any less skittish, he realized, he would no doubt have find himself wearing a matching ensemble of flaming trousers and tunic. Fortunately, his jumpy disposition made him instinctively flinch to the side, sparing him from all harm except the acrid smell of a little singed hair. He needed to shut the door, but had dodged to the wrong side, and though the dragon could not turn its head to aim another hellish cloudburst at him, the great worm did eye him with the vengeance of a caged beast meant to run wild. It waited for him, wanted him dead, even if William had done it no harm, even if it couldn't taste his crispy flesh after it had charred him to perfectly done William steaks. The moment he tried to cross the doorway, whoosh, no more boy hero and no more Barrow's End. Don't pat yourself on the back for being clever just yet, he scolded himself. Knowing where danger lies doesn't do you a lick of good if it still kills you. How to get by? The dragon no doubt waited, anticipated the boy's movements, and would gush its flames the moment William got too close. Moreover, the actual burst of fire was large enough that it would billow out to fill the surrounding area as well. Once in, he would stand almost 0% chance of escaping before burning to cinders. Then again, he could perhaps use the size of the flame cloud to his advantage. Dragons breathed fire. They exhaled fire. After a prolonged gout of flame, he could race by on the inhale while it readied its next hellstorm. William felt at the door for a warm spot, the edge of the dragon's reach, and removed a shoe. Then he crouched into runner's position and threw his boot. And that's where we're going to stop tonight, because I should probably get these kids to bed. You need to get to bed too. That was your bedtime story for today. Good night. Have good dreams. I'll see you next time.